Marxism, fascism, Gandhism, and feminism. Ninth comes a very lengthy topic, Indian political thought, Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra, and Buddhist traditions. Sir Said Ahmad Khan will be studying his thinking and his thought. Sir Shri Aurobindo, M.K. Gandhi, father of our nation, then B.R. Ambedkar, and M.N. Roy. Then comes the 10th topic. The last topic of your political theory, part A of your paper 1, is Western political thought. There are 9 thinkers, starting with Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, John S. Mill, Marx, Gramsci, and Hannah Arendt. Now, let's come to your next part. This first we have done with your paper 1, part A, political theory. You can see there are 10 topics. In each and every topic, there are subtopics. So it's a very lengthy part and very lengthy syllabus when it comes to political theory. All right, then comes the paper 1, part 2, India, government and politics. First, we'll deal with Indian nationalism. In that, A deals with political strategies of India's freedom struggle, constitutionalism to mass satyagraha, non-cooperation, civil disobedience, all those movements. They're not spoken about quit India here. Militant and revolutionary movements, okay? Peasants and worker movements. B, we'll be dealing with perspectives on Indian national movement, the liberal, socialist, Marxist, radical humanists. This is M.N. Roy and Dalit. Second topic of your paper 1, part B deals with making of Indian constitution, legacies of British rule, different social and political perspectives. 3, now we come into constitution. 3, salient features of Indian constitution, the preamble, fundamental rights and duties, directive principles of state policy, the parliamentary system, and amendment procedure, Article 368, judicial review and basic structure doctrine, which I already told you during introduction that this is a judicial innovation. It's not, basic structure doctrine is not a part of your constitution. Then fourth A is principal organs of union government, envisaged role and actual working of the executive, legislature and Supreme Court. 4B deals with principal organs of the state government, envisaged role and actual working of the executive, legislature and high courts. Simplistically put, central government and state governments के बारे में आप यहाँ पढ़ोगे. Fifth is grassroots level, Panchayati Raj and municipal government, significance of 73rd and 74th amendments, grassroots movements. See, 73rd and 74th amendments है, मतलब originally constitution में नहीं था. It has been added. Okay, so that we'll be dealing with in your topic number 5. 6, statutory institutions and commissions, election commission, comptroller and auditor general, CAG as we call it, finance commission, your favorite union public service commission, national commission for scheduled caste, national commissions for scheduled tribes, national commission for women, national human rights commission, National Commission for Minorities, National Backward Classes Commission. 7 deals with federalism. This is your 7th schedule. All right. It deals with union list, state list, and concurrent list. So under federalism, you'll be dealing with constitutional provisions, changing nature of center-state relations, integrationist tendencies, and regional aspirations and interstate politics. 8th is planning and economic development, Nehruvian and Gandhian perspectives, role of planning and public sector, Niti Aayog will come here, green revolution, land reforms, agrarian relations, the farm bill, etc. We'll discuss it here. Liberalization and economic reforms. 9th deals with the issues that we face in Indian politics, caste, religion, and ethnicity in Indian politics. 10th is your party system, national and regional parties, ideological and social basis of parties, patterns of coalition politics, pressure groups, trends in electoral behavior, changing socio-economic profile of legislators. 11th deals with social movements, civil liberties and human rights movements, women movements and environmentalist movements. Okay, now class still here. Are you with me? Have you understood what all we are going to be studying under political theory? Just show me a thumbs up. And have you understood what we are going to be studying under India government and politics? All right, now I'll just tell you a little bit about it, why I'm going through the syllabus. As I told you, once I start teaching you today itself, I have to start giving you examples. All right. So for that, I need you to know whatever the syllabus is. That's why I'm just going through it, just reading through, so that you can understand what and where, how to relate everything. All right, in examples. India government and politics, all of you have understood, we'll be dealing with a lot of contemporary issues there. Okay. Now we'll go to paper 2. Okay, now let's come to paper 2. Paper 2, part A, deals with comparative politics and international relations. All right, in that, topic number 1 deals with comparative politics, nature and major approaches, political economy and political sociology perspectives, limitations of the comparative method. Second, state in comparative perspective, characteristics and changing nature of the state in capitalist and socialist economies and advanced industrial and developing societies. 3, deals with politics of representation and participation, political parties, pressure groups, and social movements in advanced industrial and developing societies. Fourth, globalization, responses from developed and developing societies. Fifth is approaches to study of international relations. All right, in that we'll be studying idealist, realist, Marxist, functionalist systems theory. Then sixth, key concepts in international relations, national interest, security and power, balance of power and deterrence, transnational actors and collective security, world capitalist economy and globalization. Then seventh, we'll be studying about changing international political order. Simplistically put, Cold War. All right. In that, changing the international political order, A deals with rise of superpowers, strategic and ideological bipolarity, arms race and Cold War, nuclear threat. So we'll be covering Cold War here. Non-alignment movement, aims and achievements. C, collapse of Soviet Union, unipolarity and American hegemony, relevance of non-alignment in the contemporary world. Now see, hegemony we are studying again in your political theory also. We are studying here in paper 2 also. All right. Now, 8th is evolution of your international economic system. Cold War and everything deals with complete politics. Now we come to economics. From Bretton Woods to WTO, World Trade Organization, socialist economies and Council for Mutual Economic Assistance, which has been dissolved. Third world order, third world demand for new international economic order. We call it as NEO. Okay, it came in 1974. Globalization of the world economy. This is completely economy oriented. All right. Then next, we'll come to United Nations. Envisaged role and actual record. Specialized United Nations agencies, aims and functioning. Need for UN reforms. 10th is regionalization of world politics. European Union, Association of Southeast Asian Nations called as ASEAN, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, S is missing here, SARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. India is a part of it. NAFTA, North American Free Trade Area. All right. Now, next, 11th is contemporary global concerns. Democracy, human rights, environment, gender justice, terrorism, all of us know about terrorism, and nuclear proliferation. Okay. Yeah, now we come to paper 2, part B, India and world. This is where India-centric concept come up. Now you have to talk only from India point of view. So of course, the topic has to be First, Indian foreign policy, determinants of foreign policy, the institutions of policy making, continuity and change. Second, India's contribution to non-alignment movement, different phases, current role. Third, India and South Asia, SARC will come here. Okay, but from Indian point of view. A, regional cooperation, SARC, past performance and future prospects. South Asia as a free trade area, SAFTA as we call it. India's Look East policy. Now, under Modi, we call it Act East policy. So, we'll be dealing with that here. So, ASEAN will come here in Look East. APEC will come here. East Asia Summit will come in India's Look East policy. Then 3D deals with impediments to regional cooperation. Okay, river water disputes, illegal cross-border migration, ethnic conflicts and insurgency border disputes. Fourth, deals with India and Global South, relations with Africa and Latin America, leadership role in the demand for New International Economic Order, and World Trade Organization negotiations. Fifth is India and the global centers of power. We call this bilateral relations because we were talking about India and US, India and European Union, India and Japan, India and China, India and Russia. Pakistan, everything is going to get covered already in your South Asia, the topic before this. Okay, sixth, India and United Nations system, role in UN peacekeeping, demand for permanent seat in Security Council. See, in paper 2, part A, we have already done with United Nations. Here we'll be talking about India's contribution to it, especially with regards to peacekeeping and demand for permanent seat in Security Council. So we're talking about expansion of Security Council. Permanent members, see, permanent seat is written here. Seventh is India and the nuclear question, changing perceptions and policies. Eighth, the last topic deals with recent developments in Indian foreign policy. India's position on recent crises in Afghanistan, Iraq, and West Asia, growing relations with US and Israel, vision of a new world order. With this, your syllabus ends, thankfully. All right, have you all understood the syllabus? Thumbs up, please. I know it was like just reading through, all right, but you'll understand why. Okay, so now you have read the syllabus. See, this is our first lecture when we are actually starting political theory. I'll be making slides, all right, so it will be a PPT presentation, so it becomes easier for you to understand. Now, one thing I want to tell you is because I cannot dictate notes because of this online format, the slides are going to be a little lengthy. All right, I'll be trying to amalgamate as much as possible my own notes as well as whatever reference work I have done. But those are not proper notes. All right, please feel free to add, to subtract once whatever you feel is right. All right, just because I have put it in the slide does not mean you have to agree with it. All right, you can add to it, you can subtract from it. But because I cannot dictate notes, I've made those slides and I put in as much as information as possible. But I'm leaving it upon you, how you want to go about it. You want to add something, you'll definitely have to do reference work. Remember, I've given you all the books that you have to read, then plus Shubhra Ranjan notes. All right, and plus I've given you the responsibility of making your own notes. So all of that plus whatever I am going to show you in slides to explain, all of this can help you in preparing your notes. All right, are you all with me till now? Thumbs up, class. All right, great. Okay, now I'm going to be starting with your complete syllabus. All right, so now we are starting with your first topic, political theory. See, class, because it's online, I cannot cover each and everything. So what I'll do is most important parts, wherever the conceptual clarity is required, I'm going to do it. Plus, I've told you whatever important, I'm already going to put it in your slides. So I'll be any which ways revising that with you when I teach you. All right. So two, you're going to be reading the slides, plus you're going to be hearing the explanation that I give for those points that I put in the slide. All right. But apart from that, there will be certain concepts that I cannot cover. All right. So that will be your homework. I'll ask you to read. All right. So it is going to be both ways. I'm going to do majority of your hard work, but a little bit of work I'll leave upon you. The certain topics which I cannot, make you study here or cannot put them in the slides because they're not very important or they're very lengthy. I'll just give you a framework of it and tell you, okay, this is the topic. I want you to read it from this book. All right. So that entire work I'll be doing myself. Now let's start with your political theory. I'm dealing with your first chapter, paper 1, part A. Okay, see, I've already written here political theory, paper 1, part A, topic 1. Now, class, I want you to understand that it's not always going to be possible for dealing with each and every topic given in OP GOBA, because OP GOBA is not according to your syllabus of political science for UPSC. It has everything. It is generally book about political theory. I will be covering whatever is important from your answer writing perspective here itself. But each and every topic from OP GOBA can't be covered here. All right. So that whatever I don't cover does not mean it is not important. It just means that from your syllabus point of view, whatever is important is given in your slides, given in the PPT presentation when I explain it to you. But the topics which are not covered, you have to read them from your GOBA. All right. And wherever possible, I'll tell you which topic to read from which book so that it becomes easier for you to get conceptual clarity. All right. Now, let's start with your political theory. Paper 1, part 8, topic 1. Now, I'm going to be dealing with everything, all right, because only 3 people, I think, have a background in political science. Rest of you are novice, so don't worry. I'm going to be starting from the very basics of politics. So you will understand whatever you want. Second thing is, in between, I'll stop, all right? Then I can take your questions. If you have questions, put them in the chat, all right? So then I can answer them. Okay, but I will want to complete a particular topic and then come to questions. Is it okay? All right, now let's start with your political theory. The first concept, when you talk about political theory, the first word that comes in is politics. Political theory deals with politics because we're studying the optional called as political science. So now let's go back to history. How this word politics came into being. In the introductory lecture, when I gave you an introduction to political science, I had told you that the word politics comes from Greek word polis, meaning city-states. Okay, Greek had small city-states. We'll be studying that when I teach you Plato and Aristotle. All right. Thus, politics is commonly understood to mean anything that is related to the state. Now, if I have to ask you, what is politics? The word either will be, it deals with state, it deals with power, it deals with governance. So all of this is covered basically in the concept of your politics. All right. So politics was derived from Greek word polis, which meant Greek city states, and it's commonly, of course, related to your concept of state. Now, class, please understand. In India, we have states, Maharashtra, Gujarat, etc. But when we talk about this federal polity, but when you talk about political science, state is generally the word used for a nation or a country. So when you hear the word state, understand we're talking about a nation or a country. So you have to understand the terminology and the language of political science. So you cannot in political theory say nation. Okay, nation can be used when you talk about national interest in your paper 2. But when you talk about political theory, the word you to be used is state. Okay, state is the word, not nation or country. Am I clear? Okay, next. So political science would be defined as a science of state encompassing the government and organization, can be everything. India is a state, all right? India is a state. Class, can you hear me? I think there is some problem with internet connection here. Please give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, class. You can, right? So can I continue? I'll continue there. Okay. So political science would be defined as a science of state encompassing the government and organization, theory and practice of state. So for giving you an example of India, India is a state, it's a country, all right? It has a government. We have two governments, basically, if you look at it. One is the union government. We cannot use the word central. We have to use the word union government, all right? And then you have state governments, all right? Currently 28 state governments, because Jammu and Kashmir is no longer a state. It's a union territory now. Okay. So basically, it has a state which has governments. In India, you have union government and state government. So state government of West Bengal, state government of Maharashtra, state government of Tamil Nadu, etc. comes here. Okay. And the organization of the government, your executive, okay, your parliament, your legislature, okay, all of that comes here. So government and the organization, as well as the theory and practice of state. So we'll be studying about theories, okay, theories of state. I told you liberalism, etc. All those are theories, and how they are put into practicality is the practice of the state. So political science is definitely covering your government, the organization of the government, the theory and practice of the state. Okay, now let's go to certain definitions about politics. Laswell and Kaplan have defined political science as the study of shaping and sharing of power. This is a shift from state to power, which has broadened the scope of political science. See, because this word politics comes from the word polis, which meant Greek city states, our basic concept of politics became something to do with state. Then, with state, as the development took place, came the government, came the organization of states, etc. But it is also dealing with politics and power. So politics deals with state, yes, but it definitely deals with power also. All right. So when Lassell and Kaplan started saying it, why are you only institutionalizing it? Why are you only restricting the study of politics only to state and only to the organs of the state, like government, etc.? No, politics is also about power, sharing of power. Remember when I just read through your India government and politics, federalism. All right, topic number 7. That's what I told you, union list, state list and concurrent list. What is that? It is sharing of responsibilities, it is sharing of power. So see, shaping and sharing of power comes even in your India government and politics. All right. So politics is everything that covers your state as well as power, as well as the governance. All of that will come under your concept of politics. So basically, to put it, political science is concerned with both formal institutions of government and the process or relationship in the society that shed light on the shaping and uses of authoritative public power. Why authoritative, class? Because when we are talking about it, generally from India's point of view, the power is given by your constitution. It's written. All right. It is the constitution of India which gives power to your union government. It is the constitution which gives power to your state government. It is the constitution which is written law, which is telling you that there is federal structure and that there are 3 lists, and the union list has to be dealt with by union government. State list has to be dealt with by the state governments of Maharashtra, West Bengal, etc. And concurrent list both. So again, it is basically uses of authoritative power. Authoritative because it is given in your constitution. All right. I'm just explaining from India point of view so that you understand what I'm trying to example here of Indian constitution. It's absolutely fine. All right. Now, a very important question, because now we have spoken only about the word politics, but your syllabus, the topic says political science. We're using the word science. All right. So then comes the next question. Is political science really a science? Or because we're just using the word science in it? But all of us know that political science is going to be dealing with people. It's going to be dealing with power. All right. Now, when you talk about people, when you talk about power, power cannot be seen. All right. It can be felt, but it cannot always be seen. All right. Even if I have to say power, now see, Republic Day parade will come up. All right. In the Republic Day parade, you will have your military establishment, DRDO, etc., showing your missiles, etc., etc., etc. which signifies power. All right. Now, when it comes to power, when it comes to people, it keeps on changing. It keeps on changing. And because of that, we have a major question about the fact that whether political science can actually be considered as science. Because, see, when you talk about natural sciences, Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, is going to remain constant. It's not going to change. It is accepted. Gravitational force is a law which is accepted in physics. We cannot change it. But can you make a law and can you make a theory or a law about people's behavior? No, people can change. Okay, psychology, the basic of psychology, or the basic tenet of psychology is individual difference. You and me are different. Twins are also different. All right. So, because political science deals with people, it is very difficult to come up with a proper theory. All right, because people can change, political behavior can change, and you cannot always say that people will behave in a particular manner only. All right, so because of that, the major question that comes is political science a science? So if this question is ever asked, these are the points that you have to put in your answers. First is no consensus of opinion among the expert about the methods, principles, and conclusions. The subject has failed in evolving a generally acceptable vocabulary as political scientists express theirs with help of words which have different meaning to different writers. I give an example. Why I read your syllabus today is because hegemony word दो बार आया तुम्हारे syllabus में. First, we dealt with it under political theory. All right, when we're dealing with the concept of power, hegemony, legitimacy. See, the word comes as hegemony. When you talk about Gramsci in Western political thinkers, he's going to talk about hegemony. All right, now go to your paper 2. In that also we spoke about during Cold War. All right, we spoke about American hegemony. Same word, but it means different concepts in different situations. In political theory, it means different. In when you talk about Gramsci's concept of hegemony, it means different. And when it talks about hegemony or US hegemony in world politics, it means different. So there is no consensus amongst what these words exactly are. And when you do not have what you can say a proper clarity of thought, it becomes very difficult to call political science a science. Have you understood this point? Let's go to the next point. Great difficulty in studying the subject matter of political science scientifically and constructing a theory regarding the same. For example, voter behavior. I told you, you cannot make a complete objective theory of how people will behave. Best example of this I'll give you is, if you remember, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the prime minister, okay, from 1999 to 2004, he had this major political campaign called as India Shining. All right. And everybody thought, oh, we had won the Kargil war. We had tested nuclear weapons in 1998. Plus, everything was going on fine. Okay. We were dealing with everything properly. So, because of that, Atal Bihari Vajpayee's stature in world politics was very high. It was very commendable. All right. So, because of that, everybody thought, well, NDA will come back to power. India shining. We have given India the best we could. But what happened? When the election results came up, NDA lost, BJP lost, and Congress came to power, and then we had UPA. All right. So, see, it is very difficult to understand voters' behavior because it can change. You may have publicity campaigns, etc. But again, you cannot guarantee that the people will vote for a particular political party. Are you understanding? Are you understanding the examples I'm giving you? Are you all with me? Have you understood the concept of politics? Will you be able to write it? Okay, fine. Now I'll continue. Now, after that, political science is a science or no? Let's continue. Class, you can give example here of India shining in your great difficulty in studying the subject matter of political science scientifically and constructing a theory regarding the same. For example, voter behavior, you can give example of India shining. All right. Third, There is a complexity of political phenomena and lack of verifiability are obstacles in development of science of politics. For example, role of pressure groups. In Indian context and in US, I'll talk about both here. Okay, why it is complex is because in US, pressure groups are exceedingly powerful because they have only two political parties, the Republican and the Democrats. All right. So pressure groups are very powerful, all right, and they have a major influence in the political process. In India, you have so many political parties at national level, lots of parties at regional level, and lot of small parties also. So basically your political parties in India are so many that they also work as a pressure group. So in Indian context, you don't require special pressure groups. There medical group, etc., etc., etc. They are pressure groups are present, but they are not as powerful because any interest for which pressure group may put forward, political parties are already dealing with it. So pressure groups are very powerful when it comes to US, but pressure groups are not very powerful in India because political parties are already there, you know, putting the interest forward. So because of that, pressure groups in India are not very powerful as compared to their US counterparts. So because of this complexity of political phenomena, because US society, US polity is different, Indian society and Indian polity is different, and because of that, it is very difficult to come up with a very strict or objective concept of political theory here. And because of that, there is a lack of verifiability because obstacles are already there and always there in development of science of politics. Next, you come to human factors and his personal prejudices also make it difficult to establish it as a scientific discipline. Now, first three parts we were talking about how concepts are not same. They're not. There is no consensus on the concepts. Then we're talking about the subject matter of politics dealing with people itself is very difficult to have a proper theory and systematic understanding of that behavior. Plus, it is complex. Societies differ, polities differ. But again, when you research about political science, who are going to be the researchers of political science? The theorists. They are people like you and me. And when people like you and me, we also can have our own prejudices. I may favor a particular polity, I may favor a particular leader. So it is not going to be non-partisan. So the people whom I'm studying, all right, they are also basically different. Each and every one of us is different, individual difference. So all of you are different, plus you're humans, so you can change, circumstances change, behavior changes, that happens, so development happens. All right. So because of that, human factor always cannot be counted upon in political science to declare it as a science. And here it covers both the theorist as well as the people whom he is studying. All right. So basically, just repeat this once and then we'll move on. Political science cannot be considered a science because there's no conception and no consensus on basic methods as well as basic concepts. Okay. Because we're dealing with people, etc., it is very difficult to form an objective point of view and decide a theory wherein we can analyze and say that okay, and conclude that yes, people are going to behave in a particular manner. Okay. There's lack of verifiability. It's not like natural law. If I throw a pencil down, I know gravitational law is or gravitational force is going to work on it, but the same law I cannot make when it comes to dealing with people and people's behavior. All right. Next, human factor, the theorist, political theorist, as well as the people whom he's studying, both of them are humans. All right. So it is, they can have their personal prejudices. So it is very difficult to have a theory regarding the same. But then again, human behavior isn't always chaotic, and certain uniformities in human action and motivations can be helpful in formulating general theories in certain areas of politics. General theories मैं बना सकती हूँ. जैसे हम we are going to be studying theory of state, all right? We're studying social contract, etc. All those theories of state, all right? Marxist theory of state. Yes, Marx had a particular way of looking at a particular thing, okay? And he gave his theory. But these are general theories, okay? Now, if you see Marxism, has it been applied in all over the world? No. Marxism theory is excellent, but when you come to practicality and application, it is very difficult to apply. All right. So basically, general theories can happen, but specific theories that can make political science a science is very difficult. All right. Now let's move to the next part. What is political theory? Because your topic itself says political theory. Theory means focus look at something with an intention to grasp or to understand. It stands for systematic knowledge. It is generally neutral, systematic, and objective. See, theory has to be systematic. All right. And it is systematic because there is a systematic knowledge. It explains a particular phenomena, it describes it and draws conclusion from it. Okay. And because of that, it is generally neutral. All right. It cannot be biased, because if it is biased, it becomes an ideology like liberalism, Marxism, neo-Marxism, neoliberalism. They are ideologies. Ideologies are biased. Theory cannot be biased. Theory has to be neutral. It has to be systematic, and it has to be objective. All right. Now we'll study about all this political theory. In political theory, you've seen, you talk about justice, you talk about equality, etc. We'll be studying what these concepts exactly mean. We'll be studying about Western political thinkers. We're talking about Plato. What was Plato thinking? What was his objective of coming up with a political theory? All right. So all of that part is dealt with under your political theory. It is systematic. All right. Political theory, of course, I've told you, systematic knowledge of a political phenomena. Political theory in broad sense covers anything about politics or related to politics. In narrow sense, it means disciplined investigation of political problems. In broad sense, okay, it means anything about politics or related to politics. So I told you, it can be state, it can be pressure groups, it can be political parties, it can be how people will behave, voting behavior, federal structure, sharing of power between the union government and the state governments, etc. Anything about politics and everything related with politics, all right, is basically what is covered under political theory in broad sense. In narrow sense, it means disciplined investigation of political problems. See, political theory consists of both political science as well as political philosophy. Simplistically put, political science is what is. Okay? Jaisa hai. India is a democracy. It has a constitution. It performs according to constitution. It has a union government. It has state governments. Then it has panchayati raj and municipalities. This is it. All right. So basically, this is about India. All right. So this is the political theory concept attached with India. So this is political science. It is what it is. All right. Then you have political philosophy. We'll talk about it when we talk about Plato. Political philosophy is what ought to be, ideal. I am not happy with my current situation. I want to change it. Okay. So you're not happy with current, you look at an ideal. For example, all of you, I should be studying 14 hours a day. Reality, you study only 2 hours a day. But what is your ideal? 14 hours a day. I should exercise every day. That means you're not exercising and you want to. The same concept. What is and what ought to be, ka jo difference hai, is your political philosophy. Understood till now? Understood political science and political philosophy? What is political science? What is? Jaisa hai vaisa. All right. What is political philosophy? Simple. Ideal. What ought to be, what ought should be. Okay. Next. According to Hacker, political theory is a combination of disinterested, that is dispassionate, search for principles of a good state and good society on one hand, and a disinterested search for knowledge of political and social reality on the other. So, of course, it is always searching for a good state and good society, all right? But it has to be disinterested and dispassionate, all right? When it comes to political theory, I've already told you, see, neutral. It has to be neutral. So it has to be disinterested. It has to be dispassionate. Your personal belief systems have to be out of it. It has to be absolutely dispassionate and completely third eye, bird's eye view of looking at situations for creation of principles of good state and good society, as well as knowledge of political and social reality. Now, what are features of political theory? There are certain features of political theory. The sphere of political theory extends to the realm of politics only. Of course, it is political theory. So it has to be dealing with political life itself. So what does it deal with? It deals with political life of citizens, political behavior, ideas, the government he establishes, and the tasks which government performs. Political theory tries to examine political phenomena through descriptions, explanations, and investigations. Simple, describe. I'll just give an example. In Western political thinkers, we are going to be talking about first Plato, Western political thought. First is Plato. Okay, he's called as the father of political philosophy because he was not happy with Greece, city state, whatever was happening in Athens, and he wanted an ideal, what ought to be. That's why he's said to be political philosophist. All right, he describes, okay, he describes whatever was happening in that city state. So what happened was Plato was a disciple of a person called Socrates. All of us have heard about Socrates. Okay. And Socrates was skilled by the democratic elements present in Greece. So because of that reason, now imagine Plato, who is a disciple of Socrates, who considers Socrates to be the most intelligent man he's ever seen. Socrates being killed, okay, makes him believe that, okay, listen, democracy is the worst form of government. So what was democracy? The current situation in Greece, current government in Greece. So Plato's opinion became, this is not good. Let's go for an ideal. What ought to be? So he comes up with his own entire theory of how democracy is bad and how it should be the rule of philosopher king. See, the word itself he's using is philosopher, ought to be. Okay, that philosopher king has to go through a strenuous educational program. Okay, he has to be properly trained. Only then can he become a king. And because he's a philosopher king, whatever he says has to be followed and will be followed because he has gone through proper educational education, plus he has reason. Okay, he's properly educated, plus he has reason, he's rational. So his decisions, according to Plato, will be good for the society. All right. So see, he describes, he also explains. What is he explaining? He's saying, see, because Socrates was killed, democracy, that is the direct democracy, not the democracy you see now. Okay, we are talking about before Christ era. So that time it was direct democracy, rule of the people. All right. So in that place, what he is trying to describe is, see, people at that point of time in Athens were not ready to accept something what Socrates was saying. Socrates said something which was going against the popular belief. He was killed. So democracy is bad. So instead of democracy, you require somebody who is a philosopher king, who is educated and who has reasons. See, he's describing the situation in, then he gives an explanation that yes, let's go follow philosopher king. Okay, so that good polity is established. And then he investigates it. He himself wanted to become a philosopher king. So because of that, he came up with his own concept. This is political philosophy because Plato was trying to talk about radically changing or restructuring or reconstructing the Athenian society. All right. So what is his ideal? Ought to be, kaisa hona chahiye. Okay. So that also is dealt with under political theory. Now I'll give you an example of another person, Aristotle. After Plato, we'll be studying Aristotle. Aristotle was a disciple of Plato. So it is Socrates, his disciple is Plato, Plato's disciple is Aristotle. Aristotle had a completely different view compared to Plato. Aristotle describes the situation saying, listen, why change a society? It is not possible to change a society. Social change, political change takes a very long time. So Aristotle is conservative. Aristotle says, no, the society is fine. You only need to change certain problematic areas, and rest, let's keep it as it is. Let's keep it as it is. So he is describing it. He says slavery, let it remain. All right. Then he gives an explanation. He says, okay, instead of the democracy that is prevalent, against whom Plato had problems, okay, fine. But instead of that, he analyzes various organs of government. He analyzes various what you can say forms of government, and finally concludes, let's go for polity, rule of the middle class. Forget philosopher king, forget rule of majority. Let's come to rule of middle class. So he is going to explain that. Okay. And because he has also investigated, he has studied constitutions, of course not the constitutions that you see in India or US, all right, but constitutions meaning the basic structure according to which the societies were ruled in the before Christ era. So Aristotle describes the situation, okay, he explains it, all right, and he investigates the constitutions and then comes up with a best possible state. And that's why Aristotle is considered as a father of political science. So are you getting the difference? Plato is considered as a father of political philosophy because he's talking about ought to be, kaisa hona chahiye. Aristotle is what is. Let's remedy what is wrong and continue with the same situation. That's why he's called as father of political science. Next, though political theory is primarily concerned with political activities, it tries to understand politics in relation to social, economic, psychological, historical, and moral conditions. Plus, of course, it has to be no. Politics is going to be dealing with people, all right. So once it is dealing with people, social issues are definitely going to come. Economic issues are definitely going to be coming up. Psychological issues are going to be coming up. Historical issues are going to be coming up. Historical issues, I'll be teaching you when you come to approaches. There's an historical approach of studying political science or political theory. So history also is taken into consideration. Let's talk about India. I'll give a basic example of India when it comes to historical conditions. We had an history, ancient India, then medieval India, Delhi Sultanate, Mughal Empire, then the Britishers came, okay? Battle of Plassey happened, Battle of Buxar happened, political control went under the hands of the Britishers, all right? Transfer of power happened. Then Britishers almost ruled us for almost 200 years till 1947, okay. In during that point of time, we had Government of India acts coming up, etc. They were the ones governing India, all right. So when India became independent on 15th August 1947, we already had a central legislature which we call as the parliament today. India decided to continue with it because we never had any idea about nation building and continuing in modern era. So what did we stick with? We stuck with whatever institutions were created by our colonial masters, especially the Britishers. We stuck with the Westminster model. Our parliamentary model is nothing but the Westminster model of UK. See, history. All right. Lot of your concepts from Government of India Act 1935 are taken in your constitution. The bulk of your constitution articles are nothing but your provisions from your Government of India Act 1935. See how history also affects your political theory. All right. And moral conditions. So political activity deals with social, economic, psychological, historical, and moral conditions. When it comes to economics, we'll talk about Marx. When we talk about psychological, we'll talk about Hobbes. Remember, I told you Hobbes said, I and fear were born twins. So his psychology is already that man and his nature is very negative. He's very egotistical. He's very self-interested. He's always quarreling. See, psychology. We'll again be talking about negative view of human nature when we talk about Machiavelli. Machiavelli's entire theory comes from absolute disbelief in good nature of human beings. He says, no, man is absolutely self-centered. Man is absolutely selfish. See, psychology. Hobbes's entire theory of social contract comes from the psychology of fear. That's why he wanted an absolute sovereign. Machiavelli's entire psychology was human nature is negative. So his entire theory, whatever it talks about government and statecraft is from point of view that human nature is negative. All right. So psychology affects you. History, our own colonial past has shaped our current. All right. Plus moral conditions. In moral conditions, of course, you can talk about untouchability, which was there in ancient India when we were supposed to be not very educated. But even today, when we are educated, untouchability, abolition of untouchability is a fundamental right. All right, in your part 3 of the Constitution. So, because it was a reality, a bad reality at that, but it is a reality of Indian society, that's why abolition of untouchability, Article 17 was put under your fundamental right that yes, there should not be untouchability and there should not be practice of untouchability and anyways in any part of our society. So, moral conditions are also covered by your political theory. All right. Now, the ultimate aim of political theory is definitely to build a good state in a good society. Society comes first, then comes a good state. This concept, society coming first and good state, we'll study when I teach you Locke. Western political thinkers. The fifth thinker I'll teach you is Locke. So he believes society came first, then came the state. All right. So this is your political theory. Now let's come to approaches. Now class, I want you to pay attention. This is very important. Generally questions are asked from approaches. I'll explain to you what are approaches. I'll give you examples also. Whatever till now I put it in the slides can be included in your answers. Feel free to add. Feel free to subtract anything also. Okay? The complete freedom is upon you. All right, but now I want you to pay rapt attention. Okay, because this is very important. I'll be teaching you about approaches. I have tried to put in as many concepts as possible in it. All right, the slides are going to be a little lengthy because I have tried to put my own notes. I've referenced from Goba and from Ray and Bhattacharya and put everything together. But in that also, if you want to add something, please feel free to do so. All right. Okay, now I'm going to come to approaches. Now, what do you mean by approaches? Approaches consists of criteria for selecting a problem and relevant data, whereas methods are procedures for getting and utilizing data. Now, we're going to be studying a lot of approaches. Traditional approaches like historical approach, okay, legal approach, institutional approach, philosophical approach. Again, I taught you about Plato, political philosophy, what ought to be, same concepts here, okay, moral reasoning. Okay, so approaches are basically the ones which help you in selecting a problem and collecting relevant data. All right, so if I'm looking at a particular history of something, okay, then I'm going to look at the historical facts of it. So I'm selecting a problem and I'm going to the history of that problem, collecting the relevant data of that problem. Okay, so my approach becomes historical approach because I am looking at a particular situation from the history point of view. I'm looking back at its history. Like I told you about India's parliamentary system. What is the history here? Colonial past. Because of colonial past, we stuck with the Westminster model of United Kingdom. And because of that, we have the parliamentary system. I'm studying the history part. All right. So this becomes historical approach. So approaches consists of criteria for selecting a problem and relevant data, whereas methods are the procedures for getting and utilizing the data. Methods are basically a process of inquiry for collection of reliable data to draw reliable conclusions. All right. Now, in political theory, approaches can be empirical or normative. Class, please pay attention here. This is very important. All right. Empirical approach is concerned with facts. What is? Okay. It deals with what is. Their nature is scientific and logical because it is studying whatever is present in the society or whatever is seen in the society. It is studying what is. All right. So because of that, it is scientific and it is logical. It is based on sense and experience. It is based on sense and experience, something that you can see, something that you can experience. All right. So because of that, it is called as empirical approach. Because of that, it is called as empirical approach. And the criteria for validity is whether it is true or false. The approach for validity is whether it is true or false. So empirical approach, just remember, is what is, all right? It concentrates on whatever is, all right, and depends upon the basic concept that it should be able to be seen through sense and through experience. You should be able to experience it, all right, and it deals with what is. Normative approach is concerned with values. For example, equality, justice, etc. That is what ought to be. सो बेसिकली अगर एग्जाम्पल देना है तो फैक्ट्स है तो एरिस्टोटल को याद करो, वैल्यूज है तो basically remember ought to be Plato kind of a concept. The nature is critical and prescriptive. What prescriptive? Because Plato said no, I'm not happy with the current Greek society, current Athens society, I want to change it, I want to bring the rule of philosopher king. So what is it? He's prescribing a remedy. What is the remedy? Overall of the entire Athenian society, remove democracy, go back and create a new society which is based on your rule of philosopher king. So basically, normative approach is prescriptive. Okay, for example, remember Plato here. You can give that example here. It is based on speculation and logic, and criteria for validity is right or wrong. See, Plato is saying democracy is wrong. Killing Socrates was wrong. Agya, right or wrong? Philosopher king is right. Agya, right or wrong? So that is basically the concept when it comes to normative approach. Just remember, empirical is what is. It is fact. Okay? And something that can be sensed and experienced. So the answer, it answers to the question true or false. When it comes to normative approach, it is values, ought to be. Plato को याद करना है यहाँ पे. Okay, it is prescriptive because ought to be है, so I have to give a remedial measure. No, ought to be means I'm not happy with the present, so I have to give a remedial measure. So it becomes prescriptive. Okay, and the validity for normative approaches, is it right or wrong? Is it right or wrong? So basically now Black Lives Matter is a major issue that is going on. Anti-racism, all right? Now, when I talk about anti-racism, that's a value, whether it is right or wrong. So that question is dealt with. If you're dealing with that question, you apply the normative approach because it is value. You're talking about ought to be. There should not be racism. So what am I talking? Ought to be. That means I'm accepting that racism has been practiced. But what is my ideal? Ought to be that racism should not be practiced. And that's why I'm telling the world, listen, Black Lives Matter. So what is it trying to tell you? That yes, racism is and when we understand that each and every life is important, irrespective of the color, okay, then that concept becomes right. Then that concept becomes right. Class, my internet connection is wavering. Can you hear me? Okay, Anjali, Nidhi. Okay, Siddesh, can you hear me now? Siddesh, can you hear me now? Aditi, Sanika, Janvi, Kritika, please tell me, can you hear me? Okay, can hear now. Okay, Aditi, I got your message. Okay, fine, just put up a thumbs up so that I can go back to the slides. Thumbs up, please, so that I can go back to the slides, class, so that I know you all are with me. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now empirical is what is, answers to the question true or false. Normative is values. Plato को याद करना है यहाँ पे. And whatever is right or wrong. Now, approaches have or can be empirical or normative. If it is dealing with facts, it is empirical. If it is dealing with values, it is normative. All right. But now let's come to your syllabus study. In your syllabus, you're not going to be studying empirical and normative in detail. You just know ki what is empirical approach, what is normative approach. You are going to be studying in detail traditional approaches and contemporary approaches. Traditional approaches and contemporary approaches. See, I've underlined them. Okay, let me go to the next slide. You'll understand it better. Okay, let's go to traditional approaches. Now, class, it's very simple to understand what is traditional approach and what is contemporary approach. ये normative और empirical की तरह confusing नहीं है. Whatever approaches came before Second World War, traditional approaches. Whatever approaches were developed after Second World War are nothing but your contemporary or modern approaches. So before the World War II is your benchmark. Whatever happened before World War One, World War II are your traditional approaches. In that, we'll be dealing with your philosophical approach, historical approach, legal and institutional approaches. 4. And then we'll be dealing with contemporary approaches, behavioralism, post-behavioralism, systems analysis or systems approach, structural functional approach. Plus, I'll take you through communication approach as well as decision making. All right. Don't worry, I put that in your slides. When we come to it, you will know everything. So you don't have to worry about it. As of now, let's concentrate on the traditional approaches. So now I've already told you empirical is what is, normative is what ought to be. I'm repeating so that you remember it. All right, so that your revision आपकी यहीं पे हो जाए. Okay, but now traditional approaches are the approaches which came before Second World War. So which is the first approach we're going to be dealing with? Philosophical approach. It is concerned with the clarification of concepts used in the discipline and aims at evolving a standard of right and wrong for the purpose of critical evaluation of existing institutions, laws, and policies. Concentrate on clarification of concepts. Okay, clarification of concepts. Why? Like I told you, concept of hegemony le lo. Hegemony, Gramsci means very different hegemony. All right. When you talk about American hegemony, the concept is different. Hegemony, when I talk from concept of power politics, it is different. So clarification of concepts is what it is going to be done. When it is done, it is under your philosophical approach. Okay. And standard of right or wrong. आगे आपका normative approach यहाँ आ जाता है. It decides what is right or wrong. Black Lives Matter, right or wrong, comes here. All right. Now, next is most of your political theory represents this approach and are generally concerned with moral reasoning, which cannot be subjected to scientific test, though it can be always questioned from modern consciousness. Most political theory represents this approach. Now, whenever you talk about all the theories, of imagine, talk about the contemporary approaches, they're only from your Second World War. Second World War ended in 1945. From 1945 to 2021. Only these many years are your contemporary approaches. But from your before Christ era, where you're talking and starting about, especially from political science point of view, from Plato, all right? And you're talking about Chanakya in Indian political thought. From there till Second World War, imagine how much of era, how many situations, how many political changes has these traditional approaches already seen. And that's why they are divided into 4 approaches. So philosophical approach basically is concerned with moral reasoning. It is reasoning out everything which cannot be subjected to scientific test. See, morality cannot be put to a subjective test. I cannot test morality कि हाँ इसका morality meter ना 9 on 10 है, इसका morality meter 7 on 10 है. That is not possible. All right, it is very difficult to put it through a scientific test, but it can be questioned from modern consciousness. Example, best example is untouchability. All right, even if it was followed at a particular part or a particular era in Indian society, all right, there were certain reasons for it. But today, the 21st century, educated people, so-called educated people, you and me, will we support untouchability? We'll say no. We'll say, listen, Article 14 talks about right to equality. We have right to equality, which is a fundamental right. So when you have right to equality already enshrined in your constitution under fundamental rights, how can you practice untouchability? See, that's our concept of 21st century concept, the 21st century modern consciousness. Untouchability may have been justified or whatever in that particular era before Christ or Anno Domini era in medieval India or ancient India, etc. But today in the 21st century, my modern consciousness says no, sorry, untouchability is wrong. So what am I doing? I'm putting it through a test of modern consciousness. I'm putting it through a test of modern consciousness. Okay. Next, you come to philosophy is a product of quest for good life and good society. Even political theory wanted the same thing, no? Political science also wants the same thing. Okay. It is good life and good society. Everybody wants good life because that is an ideal life. That is ought to be life. So of course, good life and good society, of course, has to be the ends for all the approaches when it comes under philosophical approach. Values and facts are both necessary part of political philosophy, which enable us to analyze the political institutions and activities. So a value-free analysis of behavioralism affects the true knowledge of politics. Class, values भी है, facts भी है. Let's take the basic concept. Values. French Revolution हमने पढ़ा है. Equality, liberty, fraternity, all these major values which came up, they are important. But equality is a major ideal of your French Revolution. When you talk about equality, liberty, fraternity, तुम्हारे preamble of the Constitution, when I deal with it, it's there. It is talking about all these three concepts in your preamble. Equality is in your fundamental rights. All right. Liberty is in your fundamental rights. Article 19 to 22 deal with your right to liberty. All right. So all these concepts are already there. All right. Now, when you talk about these concepts, all right, these are values, but they are also facts. They're also facts because once we understood equality as a value, we put it in fact. What is a fact? That right to equality is a fundamental right guaranteed. Under that right, you cannot discriminate on certain basis. There is abolition of untouchability so that everybody is treated in similar manner, in equitable manner. So basically, values and facts are both part of political philosophy. Class title में ही philosophical है. So of course, it is very rarely going to be focusing only on is. It is mostly going to be focusing on what ought to be, कैसा होना चाहिए. All right, but even if it is concentrating on what ought to be, values remain and facts are also necessary part of it. Like for example, Plato's value was rule of a person who has reason. And what was the fact? The fact was that compared to the uneducated people who killed a person as educated and as intelligent as Socrates, these people do not have reason. These people are not guided by reason. They killed somebody like Socrates, a person as educated as Socrates. So basically, they killed him. So that means they do not have a reason. So what is the solution that Plato gives? Plato says a society that is ought to be ruled by your philosopher king. Philosopher king, philosophy. Aa gayi value. So values and facts are both an important part of your political philosophy. Okay, next you come to historical approach. This approach, and then we'll stop. Okay, after this we'll stop. I don't want to bombard you. All right, historical approach. It uses historical events to understand law governing politics and understanding politics through history of political thought. Like I gave you an example. How is India's parliamentary system come up? This is the answer. Okay, you can give that example here. That it uses historical events to understand law governing the politics and understanding the politics through history of political thought. All right. That example you can give entire Karl Marx. When I teach you Marxism or I'll teach you Karl Marx, that comes here. Historical events to understand law governing politics. What did Karl Marx say? The history of all hitherto society is a history of class struggle. Throughout history, there have been two warring classes constantly fighting with each other. Okay, but what was, according to Marx, what was the reason for fighting? The means of production. The means of productions. Those who owned the means of productions, the so-called haves, the bourgeoisies, they were the dominant class. And the proletariat, who did not own the means of production, okay, were basically the haves not. So because of the haves and haves not, the conflict between bourgeoisies and the proletariat, they will conflict because they are basically conflicting people. They are conflicting classes. One is dominant, another one is getting dominated. So one is up, one is down. This cannot happen. So one day or the other, the people will realize that, listen, it is our loss. We are not earning as much as efforts we are putting in. Who's taking the profits? The haves. The bourgeoisies are taking the profits. Who is the state supporting according to Marx? The dominant class, the state. The government is supporting the dominant class because they are paying taxes. All right. So in this situation, what does Karl Marx say? That finally the proletariat will have it enough and finally decide and go for a class war. And in the class war, what will happen? The bourgeoisies, the people who own the means of production, will be removed. They will be removed. And it will be a classless and a stateless society. Why? It will be classless because dominant class, the bourgeoisie class is gone. Now there is only proletariat class. So classless society ho gayi. But second concept is what? Stateless society. What was the state? Who was the state preferring? State was definitely preferring the dominant class. But abhi rule kiska hai? Proletariat ka rule hai. So then what is the need for state? State is not required because law and order, common ownership of means of production is going to happen in the proletariat class. In a classless society, each one will get according to our ability and according to our need. Okay, so you don't require a government to give you something. You don't require a government to make laws. The classless society dominated by proletariats will handle everything. So state की जरूरत ही नहीं है. So state will wither away. And once the state withers away and the classes are over and only proletariats dominate, this will be the concept of your communism. This is the concept of communism. So what is Karl Marx doing? He is using historical events. What is the historical event? That two classes are always antagonistic to each other, always will fight with each other. Throughout history, they have been doing the same. But he uses that history to come up with his concept of establishing classless and a stateless society, and finally the establishment of the concept of communism. So he's using historical events to justify his own theory. All right. It also, historical approach also helps in understanding politics through history of political thought. All right. Again, here you talk about social contract theory, understanding politics through history of political thought. So what was Hobbes's theory? Man is constantly quarreling because he had seen a war, because he had seen a civil war when people were killing each other. He was prematurely given birth to. So he says, fear and me are born twins. So what is his basic concept? His basic concept is he's establishing an history. Okay, कि people are bad. It may not be true. It is his approach to come and explain why he prefers absolute sovereign. So he comes up with a state of nature just to justify his conclusion, that is absolute sovereign, rule of absolute sovereign. So again, historical events to understand law governing politics and understanding politics through history of political thought. All right. Next, political theory is advanced in response to specific situation, and it is necessary to understand the circumstances under which a particular theory was produced for understanding its relevance to the current situation. I've already told you Plato. Why did Plato come up with concept of philosopher king? Because he had complete distrust in the ruling government or ruling government and organization in Athenian society, and that's why he said, let's remove it and let's go to philosopher king. This is what he is talking about under historical approach. Critics state that the crises of present day were beyond the comprehension of past thinkers and cannot be solved by the ideas of past. Class, when I teach you this part, I'll come when we come to Plato. Plato talks about communism. I just use the word communism, okay, here. That is classless and stateless society. When that is established, that is communism according to Marx. Plato is also talking about communism, but that is communism of family and property. All right. See, that concept of communism is two different meanings under political theory itself. But what Plato spoke about, okay, was basically that philosopher king should not have family, because family is basically someone which is going to make you corrupt, because you'll always want to emotionally think about my family. So you want to collect as much as money as possible, so that you can be sure about your future, and you can be sure about future of your coming generations also. If you remember Narendra Modi, 2014, when he was fighting for elections, that was his point. He said, look, I have no family. So my entire life is going to be dedicated only to India, and only for benefit of India, only for development of India. See, that is a concept coming here also. That critics say that present day crisis was beyond the comprehension of past thinkers and cannot be solved by the ideas of past. Okay, but certain times they can be relevant. All right, but the concept of philosopher king not having family, not owning property, so that there cannot be any negative influence on him, is very harsh when it comes to dealing with people like you and me. When we study behavioralism under contemporary theories, you will understand that psychology, etc., is also very important. Not having family, not having property is going to rob the philosopher king of basic concept of constancy. All right, it can affect his psyche, which is something that Plato did not understand, because the modern consciousness or the modern 21st century thinking was not there during BC period, before Christ period. So that's the reason why, even if you can apply historical approach, Marx has used it, social contract thinkers have used it, Plato has used it, but still, from modern consciousness, it's a little difficult to decipher. It is a little difficult to decipher. Okay, class, we'll stop here today. Okay, we'll stop here today. Next time, we'll go with legal and institutional approach. Okay, I don't want to bombard you much. So, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. I'll take your questions now. Tell me one thing, have you understood? Have you understood whatever I've taught till now? Class, when I'm teaching you, if I give you particular examples, please write down those examples. Because sometimes when you write an answers, sometimes when you write answers, in that point also, sometimes you can't remember a point and you cannot consolidate a point. Example bhi de sakte ho. Okay, so please pay attention to the examples I am giving. Aditya, I will give the PPTs and everything also to you, so don't worry about it. Aditya, I've answered your question. Anjali, so ma'am, can we say that normative approach is a slice of idealistic theory, as there is mention of ought to be? Definitely, that's what I said. It is idealism. No, it comes under ought to be. So yes, definitely you can say that normative approach is a slice of idealistic theory. Yes, because it is talking about idealism. See, what is idealism? Idealism is basically what ought to be. Ought to be always has to be values कि जैसे होना चाहिए, not what is. So you can definitely say that. Any further questions, class? Any further questions, class? I can't see any further questions here. Free to answer, yeah, come on. What were the references for this PPT? Okay, Siddesh, my own notes plus Goba plus Book Hives Digest plus Ray and Bhattacharya. Now, class, what I'll advise you here is don't go by whatever I give you. You also can read yourself. I have told you you have to read Goba, but what I have found is especially your contemporary approaches are better dealt with by your Bhattacharya. It is much more easier to understand. So I will suggest, because that is a book I had put in your optional when I had given you a book list. Go but difficult. Amal Ray and Bhattacharya. It is easier. Siddesh, mine is going to be full. Put in as much as possible. Okay, I'm going to do majority of the stuff, but you also have to read. Just because Siddesh, I have put up everything in your slides does not mean that's the only answer. No, I've told you you have to add to it. वैल्यू एडिशन आपको करना है. वैल्यू सब्ट्रैक्शन भी कर सकते हो. अगर आपको एक पॉइंट मेरा नहीं समझ में आया या फिर एक पॉइंट आपको नहीं इंपॉर्टेंट लगा, feel free to subtract it. So don't make these slides as your notes. You have to prepare your own notes. And that's not just for Siddesh, that's for everybody. खुद के भी notes बनाने हैं, पर पहला first reading करना है. Okay, Siddesh, 1 second. I am on my 10th standard political science NCRT book. How shall I proceed with the reading process? Start with NCRTs. Okay, start with NCRTs. Political theory padho, constitution at work padho. Okay, post NCRTs. Siddesh, what I'll suggest is, first of all, if you can get hold of, get Shubhra Naranjan notes. They are already available at Laksh Academy. All right, so you can send them your email IDs and they'll send you the soft copy. Then you can take the printouts. All right, but please start reading OP Goba. Now, class, I want this thing from all of you, okay? After I deal with the Siddesh's question is, Siddesh, like I told you, first deal with Shubhra Ranjan notes and start with OP Goba, please. Very, very, very important. Plus, every time I teach you, I'll be telling you what to study and what to read. So you can go according to I am going through. Now, class, I just type, when are you planning to give your attempts? Who is planning to give attempt this year? Those who are, just put up a thumbs up. Who's planning to give an attempt in 2021? Okay, Aditya, Mansi, Larub, Nidhi. Okay, rest of you, okay, even Siddesh. Okay, Siddesh. Okay, so rest of others are going to be planning later on. Okay, so basically for those people who are planning it now, okay, you have very little time. So please start reading Shubhra Ranjan notes. And along with Shubhra Ranjan notes, the moment you take Shubhra Ranjan notes, if you're taking political theory, along with that, every day, you have to read Goba. OP Goba is very important. And I told you, OP Goba se questions directly uthaye jate hain. All right. So whenever questions come, I'll tell you itself when I'm taking a lecture कि ये question पूछा गया था. So at least for Siddesh and all those people who are going to give attempt this year, I'll suggest get your notes from Laksh Academy. Okay. Take a print. Once they send you a soft copy, take a printout, start reading. All right. Especially for political theory, start reading OP Goba for political theory. Second, for India government and politics, if you have read through M. Lakshmikant, I am going with the belief that you have read M. Lakshmikant, especially because you're planning an attempt this year. Okay, start reading Fadia. How to go about it? अगर आपने preamble पढ़ा शुभ्रा रंजन से, open Fadia, and after Shubhra Ranjan के notes पढ़ के हो गया about the topic of preamble, come to Fadia, read whatever is there. Whatever is not written in Shubhra Ranjan notes and you feel is important, Shubhra Ranjan के notes के यहाँ पे note कर देना. So that next time you read Shubhra Ranjan notes, you don't have to go back to Fadia. Shubhra Ranjan के notes में ही आपको वो लिखा हुआ मिल जाएगा. So it becomes a part of your notes. So you don't have to go back again and again. Is that clear with all of you till now? You understood how to make notes now, especially with India government and politics? Same with political theory. Topic pada from Shubhra Ranjan notes. Go to political theory, reference books, read it. जो भी extra मिलता है लिख लो. All right? India government and politics में भी same करना है. Only problem comes is paper 2. Okay? So for paper 2, what I'll tell you is read a newspaper and listen to news. BBC evening one news bulletin या फिर Indian news bulletin आपको सुनना है तो शाम को पढ़ो, wherein international news also get covered. All right? And India yearbook, just go through it. Go through the Ministry of External Affairs website so you know whatever is happening. Because जो past है वो बदलने नहीं वाला है. All right? जो past है वो बदलने नहीं वाला है when it comes to international politics. जो है वो है. You have to work on your current. So for that, reading is more important. Reading newspaper is more important. Listening to news bulletin is more important. And for your international politics and India government and politics, Shubhra Ranjan के notes तो तुम पढ़ोगे ही. But with that, what are you supposed to do? listen to news bulletin, read newspapers, all right, and go through MEA website and India Yearbook. But this is my small advice to you. Okay, and it really works. Diary रखो, एक diary only for your international relations and India and world, divided into two parts. International relations becomes your paper 2 part A, India and world comes your paper 2 part B. Whatever is happening around the world, okay, like whatever Trump has done, you've seen whatever Trump did, the coup that he attempted, write that down, which day it happened. डायरी बोल रही हूँ क्योंकि उस डे के इसमें ही आ जाता है, उस डे पे वो दैट इवेंट लिखो एंड नीचे राइट योर ओपिनियन इन 2-3 लाइंस, व्हाट इज योर ओपिनियन ऑन इट. ओके, इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस में आएगा, वो इंडिया में नहीं आएगा, इंडियन में नहीं आएगा, कभी इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस. सो अंडरस्टैंड, यू हैव टू टॉक अबाउट इट फ्रॉम इंटरनेशनल पर्सपेक्टिव. ऑलराइट, नाउ basically India and European Union, or yeah, India and China, the Doklam issue, okay, the current standoff, whatever happened from June, that you can mention in your diary. All right, between Sino India, I told you, you do not call it Indo China, you call it Sino India, SINO. That is when you talk about India and China. What are you supposed to do? That is bilateral. India and world में whatever has happened, what is 4 fingers, what are 8 fingers, what is the conflict happening, ये लिखो और खुद का ओपिनियन लिखो. So शुभ्रा रंजन के नोट्स आप पढ़ोगे, plus next time you'll have a diary of events. Just go through the diary, you will realize, oh, this day, this happened in international relations. This was my opinion. India and world, this happened. This was my opinion. So what happens? थियोरी भी हो जाती है शुभ्रा रंजन के नोट्स के साथ. आप न्यूज बुलेटिन पढ़ रहे हो तो यू नो व्हाट एवर इज हैपनिंग करंटली. ओके, न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ रहे हो तो पता है क्या हो रहा है, प्लस खुद के ओपिनियंस भी फॉर्म हो रहे हैं. So that way it becomes easier for you to study, especially for the people who are planning to give an attempt in 2021. Am I clear here? You have any further questions? यहाँ तक समझ में आ गया? Will you do it? Because of online method, I can't come and check. All right. So I'm leaving it upon you and I'm completely believing you that you will do it. But please ऐसे करो. Okay. And for the people who are not giving an attempt in 2021, पहले NCRTs पढ़ने हैं, फिर शुभ्रा रंजन के बुक्स पढ़ने हैं, and then follow the same procedure. शुभ्रा रंजन के नोट्स के साथ वो टॉपिक आपको पॉलिटिकल थियोरी कर रहे हो तो गोबा से पढ़ना है, इंडिया गवर्नमेंट पॉलिटिक्स कर रहे हो तो फादिया से पढ़ना है या फिर एम लक्ष्मीकांत से पढ़ना है, एंड फॉलो द सेम प्रोसीजर फॉर योर इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस एंड इंडिया एंड वर्ल्ड. ऑलराइट, सेम प्रोसीजर फॉलो करनी है, बट दोज हु आर अटेम्प्टिंग क्विकली करना पड़ेगा बिकॉज यू डोंट हैव मच टाइम. ऑलराइट क्लास, वी आर ऑलरेडी अहेड. Okay, we have passed the time, so I'll stop here. Anybody has any further questions? Anybody has any further questions? So shall I stop here? This time I'm not giving you any homework. I'll see to that the PPT मैं भेज देती हूँ आपको. But before I send the PPT, I'm going to wait for 1 week. I want you to read it through OP Goba. Today the chapters I have covered is chapter 1 and chapter 4 of OP Goba. मैं तो spoon feeding कर रही हूँ आपका. Okay? ये दोनों chapters आपको पढ़ने हैं. If you find approaches from OP Goba difficult, contemporary approaches, please work for the next week we meet. You have to read chapter number 1, political theory from OP Goba, chapter number 4, and that is approaches from OP Goba. Plus, if you find OP Goba difficult for approaches, go for Amal Ray and Mohit Bhattacharya. Clear? Okay, we'll stop here. Have you all understood? Just show me a thumbs up, then I'll stop. No further questions? Okay, so I'll stop here. I hope you read through when I come to when we start our lecture next time. All right? Okay. I'm leaving. Bye.